Hey JUWERIA,
Hi.
it's so nice to see you. It's been a little while. You look very healthy and happy. And do you feel that way? How's life?
I do. I feel rested. I feel relaxed. Those are usually words that I don't describe myself in. So it's been really good. And I'm so glad. You can tell just by looking at me.
I can tell. It really. So what's changed? Why do you feel more rested and relaxed now?
I feel like I have more control over my life. I am such a busy bee. There's always something going on. There's always something to build, somewhere to go, someone to say yes to. And for the first time, I feel like I've just been able to slow down and to some extent take control over my life. And it sounds so cliche. I'm an adult with children. I should be having control over my life. But it's very tough, I think, being an adult in general. And so I'm in control now, which is really awesome for me.
And that control, has that come from setting boundaries, like for yourself and for others, and other changes in your life?
Definitely boundaries, but just understanding my limits and not constantly feeling like I have to run on this high capacity. Like I don't need to be high functioning all the time. That there's so much benefit in just slowing down. And something that I remembered at least is, as a child, if you always put on all these different schedules from soccer to, all these swim classes and all these activities, and you don't have time to slow down, you don't have time to think and be creative. And you're most creative, honestly, when you're bored, when you have nothing to do, when your mind is just wandering off. And so I've had so much more of that happen to me the last year than ever. And because of that, I've been more creative and been more purposeful and intentional. And as a result, just more relaxed. So I guess that was the secret all along.
It's amazing how these things tend to be secrets, even though they're right staring us in the face.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of courage to make those decisions and make those changes, because when you build a life, especially as I'm imagining more so with a family, there's a structure around it, there's an expectation around it. So to make shifts in your dynamic affects everyone else's dynamic, which just as time goes on makes it more and more complicated. So kudos to you for seeing the need for that and for acting on it. And you do seem more relaxed and which is rested, which is really nice. And so was there something in like something that happened that you were just like, I need to shift this, or it's just been a gradual thing for you where you've just kind of been getting this sense that like kind of learning more about yourself gradually and understanding, as you said, your limits and what is worth putting the energy into as opposed to putting it into everything?
Yeah, I think it was a little bit of both, and I don't think there was something specific that happened to me. It was really a culmination of different things. And so personally, I'm always someone who's on the go. If you know me, in the house I'm like that, outside I'm like that, amongst my friends, my family. There's always something on my plate. There's just never a day where it's just, I'm free this week, I don't really know what's going on. So that was one thing. My schedule was always filled up. And then the second thing was, throughout my career, I would always either try to push the boundary, try to make sure I'm constantly standing out. And those are all excellent skills. You need to have that. I have an entrepreneurial mindset, so I'm constantly thinking about the next thing. The challenge or the setback is, however, if you are not personalizing and making time for yourself, if you're not taking time to just self-reflect and say, okay, where is my rest versus where is my energy being spent, you're going to be burnt out. And I was starting to have conversations around my peers who, a lot of them are in their 40s. And they would talk about how some of the things they could do in their 20s and 30s, now they can't. And they wish that they had changed their habits when they were in their 30s. And they really made those changes in the 30s. And I'm in my 30s, I'm in my early 30s. And I thought, well, I have to be able to make some drastic changes to my life now if I want to have a healthy lifestyle when I'm 50. And so you can't really make those changes in your 20s. In your 20s, you're on the go, you're discovering things. In your 30s is really the time when you've got to set the right boundaries, the right things in motion to help you set, the right things, I guess, towards your later lives. And so that was one of the things, the peers that I was talking to. I think a lot of people slowed down during COVID. For me, I accelerated during COVID. I worked in City Hall, in city government. Everybody was looking towards solutions. And so there was a ton of pressure on all city employees to deliver on those solutions, you know? And so I never had time to slow down. And then post-COVID, there were all these health implications that we were seeing. And then I had pivoted and found an entire new career, was in the business world, and now I was dealing with the aftermath of what businesses were facing post-COVID. So I was always looked towards solution. I never, however, slowed down to say, well, what's my solution? What are my long-term plans? How healthy am I on the scale of 1 to 10? And I felt like it was pretty unhealthy. I couldn't do any squats. Sorry, not squats, I meant push-ups. Couldn't do more than 2. And I'm like, these biceps need to grow. Something needs to happen. And from there, I just realized I have to slow down. I have to be bored, quote unquote. I have to find time where I'm just not doing anything. And that was so hard. And that involved me finding a new career path. It involved me saying no to many people, prioritizing my time, and finding time to just slow down. That was pretty much it.
Thank you for sharing all that, and it resonated deeply. Some specifics in that you talk about your 30s as that time when you really just work out how you function best. And those that are lucky enough to realize that at that point, really, like that at 30, I was like, I want to live to 100, and I want to feel really good when I'm an old person, and that starts now. You know, it's not going to start from changing habits in your 40s, 50s, 60s.
Right.
And so the last 10 years I have spent, and the key to that is awareness, right, and paying attention. And that comes from creating the space you just discussed, which is stillness, right? And to self-reflect is to garner insights that you can get from nowhere else in the world. Like, no one knows you better than yourself. But our ability to communicate with ourselves takes practice. And so like developing that skill is the core of it, because once you can communicate with yourself, once you can really get in your body and you can understand yourself and how you're feeling, it just opens up these opportunities to look at every single part of your life and say, does this feel good or not? And if it doesn't, how do I make it feel good or change it or whatever? And so it's really nice to see that you've been doing that, with like you're into that, because I think it's one of the greatest changes in your life you'll ever make. And something I already like look back on with so much gratitude, that I was like kind of woken up to the point of like, I just need to I need to work this out to have the best experience. So that's amazing. And so like as we think about the world today, right, I mean, it's a scary place for everyone, really. And the idea of knowing what tomorrow is going to bring is long gone. We don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. So there's a lot of uncertainty. And so how do you kind of manage that with a family and, you know, with a career, with aspirations, in such tumultuous times when we just don't know what the world's going to be like? What does that feel like to you?
I guess when it comes to uncertainty, there's uncertainty in every day, because the second we wake up, we don't know if we'll wake up in agony. You know, you wake up sometimes and you have a specific pain and ache that you don't even know how you got to. And so I think it's understanding the things that we can control versus what we can't control, but then how we respond to both of those things. Because the things that we can control, of course, we can make some changes, we can figure things out, seek help, seek guidance, counsel. The things that are above our control, whether it's something that we're experiencing, something that someone else is doing to us and we're on the other end, how we then choose to respond, whether that be negative, positive, or any other emotion involved, I think that's where your control really matters. And that's where you have the most power. And so for me, something that I've found is, take children, for instance. So I have 4 boys. Their ages are, I can't believe it either.
It just sounds insane to me.
I have a 13-year-old, he's turning 13 on the 17th, a 12-year-old, a 3.5-year-old, and 1.5. And so there's uncertainty amongst all of them. The older that they get, I'm able to predict them. The younger ones, not so much. And so I'm not sure when the baby is going to say his first words, like the full first sentence, besides just, the baby language. How am I going to respond the first time that he does something incredible? Maybe the first time that, he takes a test and he scores very well, or perhaps he doesn't score so well. Maybe for my oldest son, when he's ready to date, his first breakup perhaps, I don't expect the first person he meets is going to be his wife, for instance. So all of these uncertainties, I think a year ago, because I was also always on this high capacity, things have to be perfect, I probably would have struggled. And I think I did struggle with uncertainty because I felt like things had to just go in motion. I think now,
Kitty.
I love her.
Kitty, no, come on.
She's saying hi. I think now it's because I feel more relaxed. I feel like I'm coming from a place of time. So when things happen, I don't feel like I need to respond immediately. I feel like I can just take it in and make a decision when I feel like I need to make a decision. Mm-hmm. Whereas before, I was on this autopilot of constantly, well, I've got to make this decision quickly because there's another uncertainty about to come and I need to address that and I need to address the next one. Sometimes it wasn't even about me or my family, it was my peers and figuring out ways that I would support them because of challenges that they were experiencing. So again, I think just the slowing down, I really think it's just such a privilege to slow down. People read about it, we talk about it in other podcasts, there's this health awareness, but to actually apply the slowness and the stillness is incredibly difficult. But the second you start, you can't stop because you're going to be on a different wavelength, you're on a different trajectory, you're comfortable being still, and you're comfortable being in that position for however long. And so that's kind of, I guess, how I deal with uncertainty. If I could go back in time, I wish I would have slowed down maybe even much sooner in my life, but perhaps this route had to happen. I'm just glad I'm not in my 40s understanding this, because when I spoke to my friends, they talked about how difficult it was to set new habits, and you've got to do those changes really in your 30s if you want to be able to live the life that you want when you're 50 and 60 and hopefully even 90. Yeah.
Stillness is the greatest place, and generally you build awareness in the stillness, right? And that awareness, I find, allows you to not live in the past or the future. When we talk about that uncertainty or things that have happened before, and be in a moment and just feel that moment and be present for it and soak it up. And as you say, then when the time is right, when it kind of naturally gets there, you find your way to it. And I guess the extension of that, the question here is like, I'm at a point in my life when even the really difficult moments, I feel so much joy. Like I'm just so like, oh, I want to feel that. I want what does that do to me? Like, how can I use that? How can I grow from that? And it's so exciting to be able to like find joy in the pain. And that comes from that stillness and awareness and really just kind of practicing like, you're not going to die from these things. The worst isn't going to happen. Like they really are. A lot of the worries and fears and stresses we have are certainly made up in our mind.
Absolutely.
And that stillness really helped me see that and like slow down in that way and really just be like, okay, I just want to be here now. Right. And so does that resonate with you?
Yeah, and I think, something that you're also echoing to is like perspective, right? Something that we see just life-changing pain or agony could be another person's wildest dream potentially to be able to just deal with something so little because maybe they're blind, maybe they just had a major accident and now they're paralytic, right? And now they've lost all their mobility, and so the way that they think about life moving forward is going to be drastically different. And they would wish if they could just wake up healthy, in a healthy body, in a healthy mindset. And so when we have troubles in our life, I think it's, to whatever extent it is, knowing that there are ways that we can handle this. And as long as you are above ground, there's going to be a solution to it. Maybe it's not going to be instant, and that's why I think instant gratification plays a big role in all of this. But understanding that our perspective could be just so narrow, and just, being still in it. But you're not going to appreciate the perspective if we're just so focused on our daily lives, if we're so focused on our, in our silos. And I think, quite frankly, I hate to change the topic so drastically, but in the US, when you think about it, we live in a bubble. We're only aware of what's going on in the US. There isn't really that information or accessibility available to us on a readily basis about what's happening all over the world, some of the life opportunities and challenges that communities face, how they live their life, how they relax, things that bring them joy, work-life balance, all of those things, how they raise a family. And so we sometimes make that assumption that because it's happening in the US and it's so normalized, it must be affecting the whole world the same way. Everybody must have that same perspective. This is good and this is bad. And so, I would always challenge myself and everybody around me, don't just automatically make an assumption that the things around you is exactly how everything always is. Maybe you're just in a specific bubble, and that's where your friendship circles matter. That's where you've got to be able to connect with people that don't look like you, don't think like you, perhaps not even in the same field as you. Have a friend as a correction officer, have a friend that is a teacher, have a friend that is a stay-at-home parent. You get different perspective, and if they're across the world, even better. I think that's what I would do. Definitely expand your connections.
I, again, couldn't completely agree. The core inspiration for Q is the idea that most of what we know we learn from new experiences and new people, and the more things we do, more people we meet, more we learn, more we grow.
Absolutely.
And there's a few that are really lucky enough to get out in the world and do a lot of different things, and proactiveness comes with that. And you yourself, you're not from here, right? You've kind of traveled around, you've had a lot of different experiences, and where do you see the value in that? Like, you kind of explained it quite well then, but really experiencing new people and doing new things, like putting yourself in uncomfortable situations, how does that help you?
So I've lived in different parts of the world, and I know you're definitely a wonderful traveler, and this is kind of your niche. But by the age 13, I had already lived in 5 different countries. And so for me, I've had to experience going into a classroom, not knowing a single language, not knowing their culture, not knowing, not even understanding their symbols, really anything, and being able to adapt. And my mother, both my parents actually, just had this expectation that I would figure it out. I was sent to school, and it's, hey, you're being sent to school to learn. And I had to then juggle learning a language, making friends, at some point also being a teenager, because that's really when I learned English. English is my 4th language, and I learned it when I turned 13. The first time I saw the letters, the word one, I pronounced it as one. and someone had to correct me and say, it's not one, it's one, it's not two, it's two, because I would pronounce it like that. And so I think having to live through those experiences, I didn't know that there was an alternative. I think the possibility of just not learning, the possibility of failing, I think that option just was not there. And something that I learned to then transfer that to was in our marriage. So when my husband and I got married, we had talked about how the divorce would just not be in our vocabulary, for instance, so that if we're committing to each other, we would have to figure things out. And so that might work for us, doesn't have to work for everybody. But a learning curve for me was when I realized that there was no alternative, I would always just figure something out. And I did that in my schooling, I did that in kind of my connections, in my relationships, in my surroundings. And I think there was being probably the most valuable thing. Did I enjoy it at the time? Probably not. I hated it because I kept leaving my friends behind. But I look at my children now. They're born in Buffalo. This is their home. The house that they're born in is the only house they've ever lived in. And I sit there and I think, wow, that is so fascinating. You didn't have to pack up and leave. You've never had to rearrange your entire life. Those are skill sets that they don't have. So I think it's going to be important for me as they get older to expose them to some of these things that I by default was able to acquire because of my surroundings. And so your surroundings really matter. And I think that was kind of like the biggest learning curve for me, moving from one place to the other. And it didn't matter. When I decided to come to Buffalo, it was a new location, land that was so different to where I grew up in the UK, changed my accent, changed a bunch of things, and I was able to adapt. And so I think any skill that you learn from when it comes to challenges is what you really are able to then apply as you get older. So definitely just take the time, and it's going to be difficult. Probably sounds cliche because when the person is going through the challenges, they don't want to hear those words. But I bet you down the line, you're going to see the lighting behind it.
No doubt. That's amazing. And like the two things that rang out there for me were adaptability and problem solving, which are two of the most fundamental skills anyone can have anytime, but specifically today. So that's amazing, like to really be put in those situations where you have no choice but to adapt. You have no choice but to solve problems, and as a grounding to build a life upon, like they're really valuable skills. And but as you say, your kids are not having that experience, and like they they'll have a different experience, but it's nice to hear that you plan to expose them to diversity of experience, because I think in the modern world, like the day of experts is kind of over, or we're careening towards it. And I think that people that are able to do lots of things or understand lots of things and be able to problem solve and be able to be creative and communicate effectively are going to have a much better chance. And of course, all of those things come from experience. And so they're lucky to have you having such a good understanding of that. So that's exciting for them. And then, so what about Buffalo in general? Like, you're from the UK like me, and the UK has its own problems. But Buffalo, I think you see what I see, which is just a lot of potential here. There's movement here. There's like things are happening, and it feels like it's in a really nice place to just grow in the coming years, pending what goes on around the country and around the world. Do you feel that as well? And does that resonate with you? Like, how do you feel about Buffalo?
Yeah, I think so. I guess to take it back a little bit, I came here in 2013. And so Buffalo in 2013 was very different to the Buffalo that we see today. And when I first came in 2013, everybody was telling me Buffalo 10 years ago was very different to 2013. And I looked around and I said, well, it still looks like it's in a pretty harsh condition. What is this evolution that you're talking about? Because I'm not seeing it. And so just to kind of bring the stark difference. So I came from Birmingham in the UK. Birmingham is incredibly overpopulated. You will probably never find a vacant property that's not for sale or not for rent. So just to see any parcel of land that's just vacant or a property, completely unheard of. And the reason for that is because land is just high commodity. And so when I came here and I saw that, there was just properties lined up, sometimes a row of properties lined up, all vacant, not for sale, not for rent, kind of showing us that, there's no plan in place, that people have just packed up and left. I realized the dynamics of neighborhood and community was drastically different. And so in the UK, there is a social class divide. And usually neighborhoods are kind of their own little bubbles. And so in your community, you're probably going to school there, you're going to work there. So if you are in a distressed kind of part of the country, you're more than likely going to stay in that pocket because you have no reason to go out of it. And so now you're not exposed to different opportunities, different challenges that other folks are dealing with, etc. In the US, even though there is that similar divide, I guess what I would say is it's still within the same footprint. And so you think of maybe, I mean, now it's getting better, but you think about the West Ferry stretch. From West Ferry to East Ferry, and I'm an urban planner, so I'm going to be able to assess at the neighborhood level. If you look at West Ferry and in that intersection, one of the first differences that you notice when you hit East Ferry is the landscaping, or the lack of, for instance, followed by the street signs, some of the signals you'll notice, and then you'll notice maybe other things, of course, like the properties, the sidewalks. And so when you think about the vibrancy of a community, it's all of those things. It's not just the activities that are going on, but it's the infrastructure also that allows people to either enjoy it or maybe struggle living there, etc. And so when I first came here, I thought, well, this is different. I'm seeing empty properties. I actually took a walk because my husband's parents lived on Herkimer. So I took a walk from West Ferry all the way to East Ferry. And I quickly looked around. I looked at the map and I said, there's no way I'm still just 30 minutes away by foot. And I'm seeing the kind of a night and day images as a community. And so for me then, I came back home and I was in school. I had transferred to University at Buffalo. And I looked up internships. That was the first thing I did. I looked up internships in City Hall. And I did that because I felt like at its root cause, I wanted to understand from a governing perspective what went wrong, what is currently happening. And I felt like all problems are in cities and all solutions are within city. So why not go to maybe the most innovative place? Some people might laugh at that, but I do consider government very innovative. Why not go there and figure out from the policy side of things why a certain neighborhood looks and feels so vibrant and another adjacent to it does not? Like, is it 50 years of disinvestment? Like, what are some policy structures that took place? What are some other factors that are contributing to the outputs that we're seeing? And so in Birmingham, I never thought about those things. In Birmingham and the UK in general, everything was so far advanced. Technology is more advanced, in my opinion. I'm a data scientist, so I felt like data sharing was far more advanced over there. So there wasn't really an opportunity, I would say, in Birmingham for me to think about the foundational things of how I could contribute to a future. I think I was already living in a futuristic city, and so now it was just more of, do well. Coming to Buffalo, I felt like I could have a real impact on what the future of this community could look like. And so to me, that was inspirational. I love the fact that, we live across Canada. That was also another good factor. But in a nutshell, as difficult and different as it was, I really don't think I would have had a meaningful life staying in the UK. Or maybe I would have, I don't know, maybe differently. But I really, really love the life that I currently get to experience because this city has so much to offer. I've been able to meet you, first of all, which has been such a blessing. And I've been able to see the impact of my work, impact of my peers' work, and the organizing and the commitment that it's taking. I can really see, and I look forward to being here in Buffalo, seeing what 2030 will look like and plus. In England, I didn't really have that. So I really think in that sense, if you are someone that's looking to have meaningful impact and be able to see the process right away, Buffalo's got to be your home.
I couldn't agree more, and I feel very much the same in its tangible, the difference, seeing the difference. And I know that in London or Los Angeles or New York, there's no way I could have had anywhere near the impact or even grown as much as I've grown my company in Q and the vision. Like, this city is right for it, and it has space for it, and it really welcomes it as well. Like, it really, there's a lot of pride here, but pride with awareness that different minds, varied minds, different support is really valuable, and it can breed a lot of positive outcomes. And so I love that that's your perspective, because it's always been mine too, and I really see so much opportunity, and just seeing what you've
Yeah.
done in this community, I've seen the impact you've made, and it's warming and it's inspiring. So I think it's a great place to end it on, the interview part of it. If you want to add anything you wanted to mention to get a chance to, or you want to ask any questions, now's your chance.
I guess I want to know maybe your inspiration behind the storytelling, because you've been, and I've seen some of the storytelling you've done in images, and now through content. Tell us, maybe, I'm just curious to know what your inspiration is.
I have many inspirations, I think, but when it comes to storytelling, when I was very, very young, it was movies and TV series and books that like just took me on adventures, that took me to a place of what life could be, and in particular those stories of people saving the world and doing these amazing things. And stories inspired me from very early on and have driven my career and driven it. Like everything is a story. Like the reason we're here this many thousands of years later is because we could tell each other's stories. They are arguably the most powerful thing in the world. And I love to tell them because I love to entertain people and also help people grow and help people learn things. And stories are a way to do that. And, you know, Q itself is a story, right? The whole Q-universe and that's been and will come is a story, but so are the details and so are the moments. And so I'm always inspired by inspiration, like in providing inspiration and helping people see things in a way that is advantageous to them. But also, I'm always inspired by simplicity. It's one of the reasons I think I like painting, because like the more simply you can tell a story, the more people will understand it, and resonate with it, and get value from it. And so I try and, like, that's a really cool philosophy for me whenever I create any stories, is what is the simplicity of this? What is the real message? And then kind of build out from that.
Wow. Thanks for sharing that. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And thank you for sharing today. And it's been wonderful and so nice to see you. Thank you.
I can't wait to come back.